I've spent over 200 hours beating this masterwork of a game, Baldur's Gate 3. I intentionally played the game late just so I can have all the hype die down and I can have a clear lens when I am playing. Because you know, sometimes hype is hype and it can kind of influence what you think about something. So I just wanted to take my sweet time playing this amazing, incredible game. The one thing that stuck out to me the most about Baldur's Gate were the characters. So I just want to give a favorites list, if you will, of the characters from Baldur's Gate 3, mainly the origin characters. The ones you see in all of the promotional material, I just want to talk about those guys real quick. Do me a favor, in the comment section, put who were your favorites. Who did you like the most? Who did you romance? I want to know all of the deets because I'm pretty sure your playthrough was very different from my playthrough. So please let me know in the comment section. First off, I would like to say a few disclaimers. One, there'll be spoilers. I don't want to put a filter on anything I have to say because I just want my raw emotions of how I feel about the characters. And I cannot talk about the characters without talking about the trials and tribulations that they went through. Number two, I loved all of the origin characters. I thought this was a fantastic cast of characters. Even the bonus characters are absolutely stellar. So this is in no way, shape, or form saying any of these characters suck. They're just my favorites. I just gotta give that disclaimer before someone leaves a 5-paragraph manifesto in the comment section. Without further ado, here's my list. All right, here we go. So first, Will. Okay, so Will is my least favorite character, but I still love him dearly. The first time I encountered Will, I remember thinking, okay, that guy, he knows how to fight. He knows how to swing a sword. We're gonna be best of kin. But I quickly realized that in contrast to my kind of loosely peaceful tree-hugging character, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work as my main compadre. I feel like Will was just too much of a hero. He was just a little bit too noble. But that nobility and loyalty was actually very endearing, and I actually grew to really like Will in the end, especially when it came to his father situation and the dreaded demon. I really liked how that all played out. I was fortunate enough to save him and his father. I banished the demon, or not banished the demon, I broke the curse off of him and I saved his father, which I thought was a beautiful ending. And not only that, they kind of mended their relationship, and I really appreciated that, especially because a lot of us have, you know, daddy issues. So seeing that mended in a game, it really warmed my heart. So in terms of Will's looks, he looked kind of plain. I tried to slap a beard on him with a couple mods, but as soon as he got the horns, for some reason the beard disappeared. So because of the big ass horns, I couldn't really change his look. I did put a mod on to make him look more like demonic and ugly, and he eventually went half illithid because I needed those powers, so he looked even uglier. So I am very fortunate to have Will as a party member, and let's just leave it at that. Okay, so the next one is probably the most traumatic storyline in all of Baldur's Gate for my playthrough, and that is the fiery sister known as Karlach. Karlach is a G. This was my sister. She was the homie. She was all of that. She had my back from jump. I loved her so much. Karlach is amazing. Now, the thing about Karlach is I thought I was doing everything in my power to get her heart condition under control, and in the end, I failed. I failed miserably, and I saw a scene that essentially traumatized me for 72 hours. The way Larian put the work into her death scene at the very end when she's on the pier and she starts crying. Like, she's strong. Karlach is strong. She's a strong personality, right? She's a very strong character. So to see her like whimpering in pain as it gets engulfed in flames and ultimately comes to her demise, it wrecked my little heart big time. So yeah, it hurt. It hurt. But I will say, in terms of the other characters, I would say she's closer to toward the bottom of the list because I felt like it was just more of that sistery vibe. And I honestly wish I had a more of a companion quest to go to Avernus and figure something out with this heart thing, fight some big ass boss and call it a day. But that's not what happened. I will say when you eventually kill Gortash, that scene where she's talking and the speech that she gives is very powerful. She's a very powerful character, just like the other characters. Now, in terms of looks, I think she has one of the best designs in the entire game. The broken horn, the hairstyle, I didn't want to change anything on Karlach. The fact that this woman has exhaust holes on her skin, magnificent. It's just a nice touch. She looks like a hell girl and she is amazing. Karlach is top tier, but she's just not my favorite. She's just not one of my favorites. Man, that ending rocked me, man. Okay, so next up, we got one of the most charismatic mages to ever walk the face of an RPG. That is Gail. Okay, the first time I met Gail and his ass was stuck in that portal, it was so intriguing. I immediately wanted to know, what has this wizard gotten himself into? And without me knowing that this guy is a magical nuclear bomb, he captured my heart, man, because he just kept making me laugh. For some reason, Gail just kept making me laugh. I remember the first time when Gail died during combat, a magical hologram pops up and starts to give me some of the most asinine instructions to revive him. I just fell in love with Gail, man. I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing so hard, like tears came out of my eyes. I thought it was hilarious because it was so unexpected. So Gail, he became a very, very endearing friend in this game. And yeah, sometimes he can say things that are kind of annoying and he can become annoying, but I think most of the time his heart is in the right place. Now, the fact that I had to keep feeding him my magical items, that kind of stung, but in the end, I am very, very glad that he was a part of my party. In terms of looks, yeah, it's on the plain side again. I gave him a nice beard, you know what I mean? And I gave him the long flowy hair. He also went half illithid, and I did some crazy stuff with his facial paint that I thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, Gail is one of my favorites, like the rest of the characters. Okay, so next is the backstabbing bastard known as Astarion. Now, Asterion, in my opinion, was not likable upon the first encounter, mainly because he tried to slit my throat as I walked past him, and me being a bard that loves love and happiness, that rubbed me the wrong way. But I said, you know what, let me give this guy the benefit of the doubt. He seems like he's in trouble, so I'm gonna help him. And I had him tag along, and he tried to kill me again later on that evening at the campfire. He said he was a vampire and he needed some blood because he's been sucking rats and pigs and all kind of rodents and small animals. So I said, you know what? Fine. Let me help you out, bro. Go ahead. And mind you, I hate vampires. I hate vampires. I don't like vampire things. I don't like vampires. I repeat, I don't like vampires. Anyone who knows me knows I think vampires are corny. The only ones I like are the ones from What We Do in the Shadows, Sinners, the movie by Ryan Coogler, and Asterion. The rest of them can kick rocks. Maybe I'm missing one or two of them, but for the most part, I don't like vampires. So the fact that this sucker sucked my blood until I passed out and died, yeah, that wasn't cool, Asterion. But Asterion redeemed himself in a few ways. One, I just liked his attitude. I liked his confidence, even though he was a servant to an elder vampire or whatever. I thought that he was true to himself, and I really, really liked that, right? And not only that, I feel like his companion quest is one of the strongest in the game. When you go to the when you go to the manor and you see the other vampires in servitude, that whole quest was fantastic. The boss was fantastic. In my playthrough, he became the ultimate vampire. And yeah, I wanted to see what happened if I turned him down. And the stab scene with Asterion is one of the most visceral stab scenes I think I've ever seen in a game. This guy was stabbing, threw up the knife, caught it again, stab, stab, stab. I mean, it was just phenomenal. That kind of emotion coming through in a cutscene, I thought it was fantastic. So I had to reload my save and make sure that he became the head vampire, which I think was still a bad idea, because now he's having orgies in the manor and doing all kind of recklessness as essentially a tyrant and a good friend that I would never trust. But shout out to Asterion. I thought his stuff was fantastic off tops. Oh, and in terms of his looks, I actually do like his regular look, but I had to kind of change him to be kind of more like a goth rock star. Asterion was a killer in my playthrough. I used arrows. He was in the shadows. He was essentially a badass rogue in all black. He was just a monster, straight up monster. So I had to reflect that in his appearance, and I kind of went wild. So, so yeah, mod your characters to make them look the way you want to look. Yeah. All right. So we're coming down to the wire. Okay. So next up we have Shadowheart. Now I gotta be completely honest. When I first met Shadowheart, I hated her. I was like, this chick is never joining the squad when we go out to adventure because she is rude. She is so rude. I saved her on the illicit ship. So she was banging on the glass trying to get out, and I saved her, and she gave me the most stank ass attitude. The most stank ass attitude for saving her life. Not only that, but when the damn ship crashed and we ended up stranded on the beach together, she had a artifact from my people, the Githyanki, who I was playing as. And it pissed me off to no hell because she act like she was the rightful owner of said artifact, even though it belonged to our people, the Githyanki. So I honestly really did not like Shadowheart until I found out that she could heal. Then she pretty much stayed on my party and became a staple in my party. And honestly, for most of the classes in the game, or the origin character classes in the game, I didn't change any of their classes because I just felt like there's a reason why the developer wanted her to be a cleric. And I liked it because it worked out. Shadowheart, in my opinion, has one of the best story arcs in the entire game. She goes from essentially a zealot of her religion to pretty much finding her truth. And I really, really like that. The fact that she goes from worshiping the matron of shadow to the matron of the moon is brilliant. Within the first couple of hours when you're walking around and you find any artifact from another religion, she will literally call it essentially a piece of trash or a paperweight. And I thought that was so disrespectful given the fact that you worship the god of the shadows that blocked off half your freaking memories. So to me, I just thought she was very dumb. But in the end, I felt like she had one of the best quests. Unlike a lot of people, I love the Temple of Shah. I think it's one of my favorite parts in the game. The design in that place is so sick. Now, when it comes to the look of Shadowheart, I really like her look, right? I like the high ponytail. I like a lot of the Shah armor that you actually end up getting in the end. The fact that her appearance actually changes depending on what you do in the story, I think is magnificent. She went from being a character I couldn't stand to literally one of my favorite characters in Baldur's Gate. Her and my characters became really good friends. She really opened up, even though I didn't even romance her. She's an excellent character. And she's in Expedition 33. Anyway, the next one is my favorite origin character. That is the green booger of a lady named Lazelle. Lazelle was the first character my character Gong met in Baldur's Gate. It was during a time of pure chaos. We're stranded on an illicit ship. She jumps over and flips over and sticks me up with her sword. And at that moment, I knew my character fell in love. And damn, he did. Lazelle was rough around the edges. She said what's on her mind. She did not give a shit if you got offended or not. She was in stark contrast to my bard character, who wanted to get along with everyone, who could persuade anyone to do anything, and he fell in love with her. And rightfully so, because Lazelle also has one of the best arcs in the entire game. Again, she figures out that everything she stood for and everything she held dear was a farce. The fact that there's a whole ass savior of the Githyanki being captured by a Illithid, and she was worshiping the wrong leader, I think that was magnificent. I think it was great. And she ended up falling in love with my character Gong, and I love the way you have to prove your love to her in battle. I thought that was excellent. It came out of the blue. One night she tapped my character and said, "Hey man, you wake up, we have to exchange blows." I thought this woman was mad, and she ended up kicking my ass in the fight and still gave me a chance. So I really love Lazelle. I think she's an excellent character. In fact, I almost shed a little tear when her and my character flew off into the sunset on their dragons or whatever. I would love some DLC with the Githyanki overtaking Vlaakith, but I know it's not coming because Lyrian already said they're done, which I can't say anything about. So there's one more character I really want to talk about, and that is my character, Gong. I really love Gong. Gong was meant to be a bard that lived on a hillside and got away from all of the Githyanki nonsense. He just got tired of the whole shit, and he kind of like ran away. That was the backstory in my mind. He didn't want to be a warrior or a fighter or anything like that. But in the end, he went from being a bard or Gong to General Gong. Gong gained so much respect from the people he influenced that so many people showed up in the end just to support him. And I really loved my character. Not a man of many words, but he can persuade anyone to do anything. And he's a goddamn great musician. The fact that I could just pull out my lute and just start strumming and people will walk up and start throwing coins. I mean, it felt so good. And honestly, I've never felt something like that in a game. I felt like my character was exactly how I wanted him. And the ending to how everything went was exactly how I wanted it. And honestly, I can't praise this game enough because I felt like the role-playing was role-playing that incorporated my character that I made, even down to his moveset, I thought was fantastic. Now, my character went through transitions like every other character went through transition. We became half Illithids and we saved Baldur's Gate and we kicked the Illithid's ass. Those geek bastards. And one little last honorable honorable mention before I get off the camera. I like so many characters in Baldur's Gate that I just have to give the whole cast props. There's a scene where they all gather around to show their support and my eyes started watering up because while I was watching this, I remember over the course of the 200 hours, each and every time I helped them get past their problems. From demon to dog, shout out to Scratch, to owlbear. I mean, just so many people I helped along the way showed up to have my back in the end. And when games do stuff like that, when games have their own retrospect in saying, hey man, we're here for you in this hard ass last boss fight, I felt it. I felt like I was supported the same way I supported them along the journey. Bravo to Baldur's Gate 3. So that concludes my list. Now, for those of you who have no idea who I am, my name is Jabulani Ori, and I love to talk about the visuals and games. If you're interested to see my work as an artist, you can head over to my website, jahbu.com. If you would like to follow me on social media where I showcase my work, you can follow me on the socials at jahbu_art, Jabu_art. Please load up the comment section with your list. If you made it to the end of this video, consider liking it, you know? And if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. I'm trying to get these videos out here while making fantastic art at the same time. Quite challenging, but I'm up for it. Until next time, my wonderful, powerful people. One love. Peace.